call this meeting to order. And I guess winter's here, or at least fall's here anyway this morning. I'm going to break with our regular practice and ask Ross Carnes to talk to us about a proposal that he's going to present, and then we'll get started. But we're going to go out of turn. I don't see Tammy here. And Lou, you wanted to go early? No, you okay?
After.
Okay. All right, so we'll get started with Ross Carnes.
Good morning. One of the things that we've been debating is the possibility of doing a member satisfaction survey. A lot of organizations look at how their members are being treated, how their customers are being treated. We have not made a decision. Let me make that clear. We have not made a decision to do this. This is something that we're just considering. What I would like each of the committee chairs to do is I'm going to pass out, if you want to just pass these around.
Mary,
yeah, Mary, can you? What I'm asking, let me have one. What I'm asking each committee chair to do is to write 3 questions, and I have given you an example of how that would look, and the example I used was the equestrian center, but to ask them the question of how satisfied are you with, and then whatever the topic is, and then their answers would be completely dissatisfied, dissatisfied, satisfied, or completely satisfied. And I'm not asking you to take a survey. I'm just asking you to generate 3 questions for your committee that we might consider asking to membership. Again, this is not something that we have decided on. It's something that we're looking at, but we would like for the December workshop to each of you bring at least 3 questions. We don't want to make this a 600-question survey. We want to be able to do, 20 or 30 questions that members would be able to complete in a relatively quick period of time. But to bring your questions to the December board workshop. Do any of you have any questions? Okay, Mr. President, thank you.
Okay, well then, since Tammy's not here and Lou says he doesn't need to leave early, then we'll get started with Mr. Maurer, Bylaws Committee report.
Good morning. We had a full committee member. I don't mind using the mic if necessary.
Thank you.
Is it turned on?
It is.
Thank you. We had a full committee member meeting on October the 10th as scheduled. Doug Green was a guest. We had a quorum. The minutes of the September 12th meeting were approved. There were no new topics presented for discussion. We acted on DCR CR 1710-001, which proposed a committee resolution that removed reference from the membership orientation committee that had been in the bylaws. After committee discussion, the committee voted to recommend the board approve the DCR as submitted. Next item was DCR BL, which is a bylaw 17-10-001, submitted by Director Franson. The DCR recommends the elimination of the membership committee from the bylaw Article 9. The duties of the committee described in the bylaws are no longer compliant with the Texas Property Code and have not been practiced by the committee for some time. The Bylaws Committee recommends the board include this change in the March membership election. Next item on the agenda was DCR PL 1710-001. It was pulled from the agenda at the request of the visitor, Doug Green, who was representing the Finance Committee. No reason stated. Next item on the agenda, agenda items 8 and 9, both relate to moving the Audit Committee duties from the PPOA policy statement to the bylaws. I think these were submitted by Director Cote. These changes were submitted and discussed by the Bylaws Committee. The committee voted to recommend that these changes be approved by the board, included in the March member election, were appropriate. The meeting was adjourned at 3:19 p.m. Any questions?
We have one from the audience, so we'll take it. Go ahead, Joel, speak loudly.
All right, one question I've got is, has the bylaws committee ever discussed what actually constitutes?
I'm sorry, may I interrupt? Come back up, take my money, please, and then give it back to me.
What I'm wondering is what actually constitutes the $50,000 requirement in the bylaw, that if more than $50,000 is spent on an amenity, not normal maintenance where you've got to go in and clean up things of an existing structure. Has anything been discussed in the bylaws committee on the fact that when we go to remove a structure and rebuild another structure, whether that really does fall under the fact that you can't spend more than $50,000 to do that, because actually you're creating basically a new amenity. It may not be a new, but it is a new structure. It's not simple maintenance. It's not like going in here with the kitchen or refurbing this room or refurbing the dining room. It's actually removing an existing structure and building a new structure. Has that ever been discussed by the Bylaws Committee?
Not to my knowledge, sir. The Bylaws Committee does exactly what the bylaws say it should do. We evaluate recommended changes to our governing documents. We try to ensure that they are in compliance with statutory law of the United States and Texas. Number two, we try to eliminate any redundancy so we don't have duplication of terms in our governing documents. Number three, we try to ensure that there's proper English and pronunciation used. We do not make decisions on how any of the bylaws or governing documents are enforced. That is not our job, and we don't look for new work. Thank you. Any other questions?
Well, the only question then would be for the board. Is it the board's responsibility?
Yes, sir. I think you're correct, but that's not my opinion as the bylaw chairman. I look at what I'm told to do, and that's it. Thank you.
The question of whether an amenity or an asset is different and how that can be interpreted has not been addressed by the board either.
It needs to be addressed.
Thank you. Who's up next? ACC, Jim Miller.
We had our regular meeting on the 19th. We approved 5 new houses for construction. Every week we've had anywhere from 3 to, I think we had 6 or 7 a few weeks ago. These are not necessarily new memberships. They're people who have owned lots or the developers who they have decided to build and they submit their plans. All 6 of them were approved, and we had 5 miscellaneous applications for the fences and driveways and all that kind of stuff, and everything was approved. One thing of interest, the compliance officers found a person down on the river feeding the deer consistently. He was sent a letter asking to stop, and the man said, "You have no control over what I do. I'm in Johnson County." Well,
I'm in the state of Texas.
we didn't ask them. But anyway, there's kind of a, well, I don't want to, I need to be careful, but they, after considerable amount of discussion with him, they agreed, ACC compliance agreed that he could feed the deer down on the river in Johnson County. But he was cautioned that the feed that he puts out for the deer quite often attracts hogs. And he said he was not concerned about that. The next night, the hogs plowed up his backyard. We didn't go any further than that. Thank you.
Yeah, we've had some hog damage as well in the air park on flight plan and final approach. Tore up Tony Patton's yard pretty bad.
Yeah, they're coming up that draw up toward into the air park now. It's going to be. I watched a deal on television the other night about the hogs, and those are vicious animals. They're fast, they're aggressive, and they're dangerous. So we need to keep them out of our area any way we can.
Jim, do I understand this properly, that if you live in Johnson County, it's okay to do whatever you want?
He was on the river down below. He was feeding below the river line, which put him out of
pecan plantation.
Yes.
It's a violation of state law to feed wildlife, period.
And I noticed that in the past, the grocery store in the village would sell sacks of deer feed. And I don't know if they've done it. Are they doing it this year as well?
I haven't seen that.
Yeah. So if we note that, I think we should point out to them that that's a violation, and it encourages people to break the law.
I don't think it's a violation to sell it.
No, I know it's not. Yeah.
But not much you can do with it when you buy it.
Yeah. So we're going to go out of order now. Tammy, if you're ready, I understand you need to leave early. So we'll hear from you.
Thank you for allowing me to do that. Just an update on the stables. We currently have one space available. I have about 3 people who are trying to find property or a house in Pecan who are on lists, and one that just moved in and just isn't quite ready yet. So I don't think it'll be very long before that's filled. I'm still working on getting a reasonable bid for enhancing the lighting in the arena, which was one of the items that we turned in on whatever all those forms were, the long-range planning thing, I think. The first one was just outrageous. So, and we don't need it lit like a professional arena or anything, so we're not, we're being very responsible about it. And we have one boarder that has a son that works for electric company, which is actually how we got the first lights that we had, which were free to us at that time. But anyway, so they're going to be coming and looking at it, so we're still working on that. We recently had a dinner at the barn, and all the boarders were invited and had a real good turnout for that, and discussed just things at the barn, clean up, different ideas we had for working out around the barn, which Daniel's probably mixed emotions on that. But it was good, and had a good, and we had a couple of ideas for fundraisers. We raised a little bit of money from the garage sale that we just had with some donated items, and then we have a boarder that donated a handgun, and we're having a raffle for the handgun. A couple of the people up here bought tickets for that. That drawing is going to be November the 18th. Checked with a gun shop, made sure we were doing everything exactly the way you're supposed to on that. Barn is looking good. We have had boarders. They donate their time a lot with doing cleanup and painting and all that kind of stuff, so it's looking pretty good up there. And we did mention, just for whoever is in charge of hiring the person that does the restroom cleanups for all the parks, they're doing a great job up there, and we made mention to her about what a good job she was doing and how much we appreciated what she was doing. So that's all I have.
I'm intrigued, Tammy. Where do you guys eat dinner in the stables?
We have a lounge area up there that has we have a big table and stuff, and everybody bought we have about 6 or 8 chairs up there, and then everybody brought folding chairs. So we had it up there and then in the center aisle.
So you weren't doing it in the horse stalls or anything?
No, it was close. You could smell them, but that really doesn't bother us.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any questions for Tammy? If not, then we'll go to finance, and Ray Lewis is sitting in for Bob Zimsky.
Well, nobody can do that. But the Finance Committee met on October 24th. The quorum was present. After discussion, the committee agreed to review the 5 pending ACEs, although they are for next year, and that budget has not been approved. Therefore, our actions are all assuming that the current budget will be approved essentially as previously seen, at least regarding these matters. ACE 18-10-01 for the PAC gym lights for a budget of $10,000 was approved to greatly improve the quality of lighting, save money, and an offer was made that looked compelling to us. You want to get people to go through each one of these?
Yes, Daniel and I, a little background, Daniel and I had been planning on swapping out our old metal halide lights of 400 watt with an LED solution to be more energy efficient and probably get more lifetime out of it and improving the quality of light for the people that are participating in activities inside the gym. And we were ready to try to roll that out with this next budget cycle, but we got approached by a company that is authorized to work on behalf of Encore to participate in an Encore Main Street Energy Efficient program. And what they do is they come on in and they do an analysis of your lighting and an energy analysis. And then they put up a proposal where they come on in, they'll do all the demo and install parts and materials with a LED solution. And they say guaranteed to save you money. I think we can save up to what they said, up to 43% per year on energy. And they also, Encore pays for approximately, I think, 40% of the total cost of the installation. So, and they get paid by Encore. So our portion actually comes in less money than what Daniel and I were anticipating on us just buying light bulbs and doing all the work ourselves. So that's it in a nutshell. And we just need to execute this. They said, I think, by the end of this year, by December 31st, I think that cost will still be good. So it seems win-win for Daniel, crew, and maintenance, and win-win for the association. So to us, it's a no-brainer.
All right. We also recommended approval for 181002, the PAC robotic pool cleaner for a budget of $3,200.
Yeah, that capital, 2 years ago, we put together a replacement capital for the robotic pool cleaner for the clubhouse pool. We've had one for several years, and it works out so well in reducing the amount of labor that we have to put into preparing the pool daily for the members and keeping it, up to speed, even in the off season. So the guy doesn't have to spend 6 to 7 hours pulling leaves out of the pool. So we are trying to bring in another robotic pool cleaner of the same make and type for the PAC pool, which actually has a bigger problem with leaves and debris than this pool does, and we're hoping it saves us a lot of money in the end.
The third ACE was 181003 for a club pool refinishing, a budget of $75,000. This has been discussed many, many times, and I think we reviewed and buy into the recommendations, which I think Keith will tell you about.
Yeah, this is, if people recall this last year, we had, I think, $80,000 in the swimming pool, and some people thought that that was for the refinishing of the pool. That actually was for some electrical problems we were having with the swimming pool lights. Daniel believes that we can come up with a solution. That's why we didn't act on that last year, because it was going to be a very costly project, and some of the bidders were estimating even at more than the $80,000 to do that. So we think we can do something in-house by buying some parts. We're going to try it out this season to make sure it works. This ACE form is for the actual refinishing of the pool. It is not a plaster pool. It is a fiberglass pool, a proprietary product called FiberTech. From my research, we've had the fiberglass in there, 15 to 20 years, and it has been partially refinished, patched with the FiberTech. This bid is to actually go all the way back, removing all the fiberglass and doing a complete rebuild and gel coat, which should give us at least another 10 years. They warranty the product, I think for up to 15 years, for it, and it's one of our only options that we can do in this pool due to the cracking of the shell.
The fourth ACE was 181004 for a pool chemical distribution system.
Yes, this ACE form is pretty self-explanatory. There's different kinds of sanitation systems you can put in the swimming pool. One is a calcium hypochlorite system, is what we had probably about 8 to 10 years ago. But that system was very time-consuming in maintenance. It was really difficult to keep going, kept a good quality of water for sanitation purposes, but was just way too much work to keep it going day to day. So we ended up switching, I think at least 5 years ago, to a sodium hypochlorite. You'd know that as liquid bleach. We went to a liquid bleach system. That in itself has its own problems. It was a little bit easier on the maintenance side, but we still had some trouble with the clogged lines from the residual product of the dried sodium hypochlorite, and the fact that sodium hypochlorite solution, like 8 to 10%, loses about 20% of its sanitation power within 30 days. So it makes it, it's not really very good even in the off season, because the time you don't burn through the 300 gallons that you end up using, and then it ends up pumping it becomes wasteful product. Well, this ACE is for a system that we originally wanted to put in, and I looked at it when we built the PAC lap pool, but the problem was it was way out of our price range that we at that time could spend for the system. Well, since then, they have modified the system, and it came way down basically to the cost that the old calcium hypochlorite system cost. So what we're trying to do is we are replacing all 3 chemical systems in our swimming pools with this new AccuTab system, and they actually let us try it for free. We just had to buy product from I think they put it in May through our heaviest season. So we got to actually put it to the test, and Daniel could probably attest that there is absolutely no way we'd want to go back to any other system. It's actually worked out fantastic for us, and our quality of water shown. We had absolutely 0 closures this year, with our swimming pools. So it's been definitely one of the best things that we've done to date.
If I could be allowed to editorialize for a second, I think those are representative of the kind of things where the staff is doing an outstanding job of improving the quality at a better value. Both that and the gym lights both are commended for, I think, finding those kind of opportunity. The last one was ACE 181005, which was basically a budget of $15,000 to build our inventory of china, glass, and silverware back up. We handle routine day-to-day shrinkage as necessary, but periodically we have to go in and make a larger purchase to get back up to an inventory that would allow us to handle parties and big items, and the Finance Committee recommended approval of this.
I just want to add one more thing. I'm available for a small fee to present all your other ACEs.
I'm not sure who wants to talk about that one. If anybody needs to talk about the china and glassware, feel free to, if you have questions.
One quick one.
Talk to the president. I'm just here.
One quick one. We're going to need the mic. So, first of all, I'd like to call on Doug.
Well, I've got, going back to the pool, though, they're going to blast off the fiber tech. Does that contract, then are they going to repair any cracks in the underlying structure? Is that part of the contract? Is that going to plus up the contract, or is that built into it?
Yeah, Daniel said they will.
Okay.
When you say repair, though, the structural thing of the pool, it will still move, and that's why we can't plaster it, because you can repair, fill in cracks and all that, but if it structurally isn't sound enough, then you can't go with a normal plaster. You go with something that's got structural integrity and fibers in it, and that's why this fiberglass is the more practical way to go.
Well, my question was simple. Has anybody determined, we just replaced a lot of glassware, what was it, about 2 years ago? Glassware and dishes.
Replaced what?
3. Has anybody determined whether it's breakage or it's theft? Has there been any check as to where, is there anything saying, okay, why are we going through this $15,000, $20,000 replacement every 2-3 years? Is there anything in place to determine whether we have a theft problem? Or
I understand the question, but you're probably looking at me, and I don't have the answer to that, although shrinkage in any restaurant operation is normal. And there's breakage, there's sanitation issues. If something gets cracked, we're not allowed to use it because it could be harbor germs and things, and so there's a lot of that kind of stuff going on.
Okay, wait.
Addressing the usage or the breakage or whatever, I think the standard in the restaurant business is about $1,000 a month is what they usually plan for, anticipate for, and budget for. So $15,000 in a 3-year period is probably reasonable.
Does anyone know, is John here? John Thomas here? No, okay. Go ahead. All right.
My question is, from my experience, that was always expense to the P&L.
The Finance Committee recommended that this come out of the operational fund.
Okay, Ray, you have anything else?
Yes. Going back to reviewing the new budget, the Finance Committee did vote to recommend that the board approve the revised budget. So that's just an official something that we had talked about in previous meetings, but we had to confirm that at our meeting. The controller reviewed the financials and showed an outstanding month for October and year to date. I won't go into details on that. Most of those things are above my pay grade, and they don't let engineers know those kind of terms because we sometimes use it to figure out a way to buy things, so I have to be careful. The Finance Committee had an extensive discussion of ways to handle the flow of funds into and out of operating funds and various capital funds. This important issue will continue to be considered at future meetings. I think there is the DCR regarding that, but I believe there will have to be continuing evolution. There are some placeholder numbers in that DCR that only time will determine whether those are exactly the right numbers, et cetera. And so I think a lot of work's going to have to be done to figure out how that process worked, although it's a good process. The Finance Committee discussed the history of transfer fees and new memberships over the past 5 or 6 years and agreed with a staff recommendation to revise upwardly the budget assumption for growth from 5.5% of membership each year to 6.5% of membership each year. We felt like, the committee felt like that better reflected the history of the growth in Pecan. Doesn't mean that will be precise next year. That's the nature of forecasting, but we're, I think, better off making our best guess assumption, and that's where we are. Finally, the role of the Finance Committee in the rapidly evolving camp process was discussed, and this again will be a continuing process. It will involve close coordination with both the Finance Committee and the Long Range Planning Committee, and I think it's very constructive for Pecan, and will continue to evolve into a better and better process for us to control. And I think that covers the majority of the issues that at least I was allowed to understand.
Just one point, with the addition of the growth going up from 5.5 to 6.5 and the other changes we've made to the asset reserve project or study, we will not go below $500,000. So we were able to correct that and now keep the fund solvent over $500,000 per year in the coming years. And that is moving irrigation up to 2019 and 2020.
Bob, just interject here in reference to what he mentioned about a DCR is in the pipeline that was initiated relative to the capital asset policy, and as I understanding it would come from the Finance Committee. It will be reviewed in the November 14th Bylaws Committee meeting. It's 16 pages long. Anybody interested, welcome to come to that Bylaw Committee meeting. You can go on the website and pull it down. It's in the policy section, 1710003. It's pretty long, and that gets quite a bit of detail in what the Finance Committee hopes to accomplish concerning capital asset policy. Joe, you might want to look at that too. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else for finance? Yep. The other two committees I have under my report are long-range planning, and unless Beverly gave a report to somebody, the last one's Lenmo. Doug, do you have anything? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think we'll start down this side. Let's start out with Dennis and membership, if we can.
Thank you, Michael. The last billing, we currently have 3,045 members here in Pecan. The report, as far as numbers that we've had at new members orientation, covers September and October. Had a total of 38 attendees. 35 of those were resales. No new builds at this attendance, one lot, and 2 rentals. One thing I'd like to let everybody know is that we are in the process of revising the new members orientation video. It's definitely too long and out of date, and I would invite all of you, if you have the opportunity, to attend either November or December's meeting. They'll be held on the second Monday of each month. But just take a look at what we currently show the new members on the video, and we welcome any comments that you might have that you think should be included. I know of a lot of things that I think we need to delete and update, but it's a good opportunity for you to take a look at that and then let me know or Brian Rogers, because we're working on this together, and we hope to have it done, within the next 6 months, so we can, finally get something that makes more sense. And then once it's finalized into a PowerPoint presentation, we'll present it to the board here for your final review.
I have a question on that.
Go ahead.
Can we put it on the website so that people can review it from time to time? Because there seems to be a lot of stuff that husband attends and the wife doesn't, the wife does and the husband doesn't.
That is definitely my intention. We would love, once we get it approved by everybody, not only would it be reviewed at the new members orientation, but we'll put it on the website.
Lou Turner, food and beverage.
Let me go back and address the earlier issue in terms of expensing breakage and so forth for silverware and china. Typically, in 99 of every restaurant operations, hotel operations I've been involved in over the last 40 or 50 years, all of that is managed out of an inventory and is expensed monthly based on the usage for that month and breakage for that month. So it's always been an operational expense and not an asset expense. Not rocket science, but it's just something we probably need to take a relook at. Okay, our meeting, regular meeting of the House Food and Beverage was on October the 10th. All but one member of our committee was there, and therefore we had a quorum. We finalized the concept for the 19th hole in Pro Shop and have updated the documents to long-range planning in terms of looking on how that will go through the process, and we can arrive at a funding formula over some period of time yet to be determined. We continue to work with the Marina Committee to help to update and modernize the grill at the Marina as well as the store, and we're working very closely with Jerry and Cotter, and hopefully we'll see some progress, move that along over the next few weeks or so. I'd also like to remind those that were not here last month that we submitted the committee submitted our long-range plan for this building, and it is currently on the website. And I would encourage not only all the members of our associations to take a look at our thoughts of where we need to go in terms of this building facility, and we would also entertain any suggestions or other comments from the association membership as we move this project through the system over the next few years. Other than that, that's it. Mr. President, I have one comment on what Lou said on expensing breakage. I think the accounting procedure on such that kind of booking is it calls for periodic. What you said is correct, but when you book it, it's done periodically. It could be done monthly, it could be done quarterly, or it could be done yearly. We do it exactly the way you just described it, only once a year, where the inventory is taken, and then and the breakage is figured out, and then the expense of the breakage of the shortage is booked. So it's done once a year. All right.
Mr. Nyman?
Yes, Lou. I have the question of that. I talked about here. The question I have is, I heard from, I believe it's a member of your committee, that there's some unhappiness the way the kitchen is arranged, and that's one of the reasons why we're having problems, quote, getting food out of the kitchen, where there have been complaints that it takes so long to go ahead and get food out, that there was some talk of spending another $100,000 to rearrange the kitchen. Is that something that's imminent? We just built that kitchen for over $500,000. So that is a dead rumor.
What was discussed in our committee is we would have someone, probably at no cost or minimal cost, to come in and just whether or not we can realign the equipment that we already have. This kitchen, for example, every piece of the major equipment is on a quick disconnect, which means you and I could go in and rearrange the kitchen by moving the equipment around. And we have absolutely not even discussed the thought process of any kind of major expenditure on the kitchen. So I don't know where the hell that came from.
Okay, well, it's a rumor, I think.
But what we have done is we just started a new menu, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and with the goal of improving some of the items. We took some of the old items off, added some new items that are more efficient, and especially for the people on the line, we can get food out quicker. Early indications are by the comment cards they're being well received.
Bob.
Yes, go ahead.
One of the issues, sorry, an issue that has come up several times over the past several months, that in my experience has been that in the dining rooms, when there is a delay, the wait staff has told us that, well, there is a event in the ballroom, and there are 150 people that have to be served. And it's only then after they're served that the a la carte guests are served. And I'm really interested in that, Lou, because we've been told that the improvement in our revenues has come from our a la carte business and not from our catering business. So I'm puzzled why we sacrifice the a la carte service to the catering service and make the a la carte guests wait until that dinner has been served. If we are not hiring additional staff to man the or to staff a catering event in order to keep the cost down for that catering event, then I think we need to take another look at that. So.
Well, certainly, I think you must understand, however, that from an operational point of view of how to run that kitchen day to day, our position is that truly is an operational issue of which our committee, by resolution, is disallowed, for lack of a better term, to get involved in day-to-day operations. Although we have made some suggestions to Jonathan on things that could be done that would help move that process and make it more responsive. One of the things was the menu and how that could be simplified. That would take some of the pressure off in terms of not only competition to get food out for a la carte, because we had some issues there that needed to be resolved. And I think, back to what you just mentioned, the restructuring of the menu will help to do that. The other objection then becomes, what do we do to ensure that our a la carte people are satisfied in the manner in which they should receive the quality of service? And then we need to adjust that to make sure that both sides of that production effort gets streamlined and we don't run into these delay problems, because right now it is an issue that we continually discuss with management, and we will still continue to work to see if we can get it resolved.
And I can tell you we're actively working on that, John Thomas and his staff. So, and I think the new menu is going to help a lot. It will reduce ticket times, and we'll be able to get food out of the kitchen quicker and more efficiently.
Well, don't we have, sorry, Joel, this is not a discussion. We'll take that up later. Go ahead.
Anything else, Mr. Turner? Anybody else have anything for food and beverage? If not, we'll go to Brian Rogers on communications.
Thank you. The Communications Committee met September the 27th at a regular scheduled meeting. We did have a quorum of voting members present. AT&T, the new phone system for the PPOA management and staff, has an interface issue. AT&T delivered the wrong one as far as that interface server router went there. I'm informed that the new one should be delivered either today or tomorrow. Hopefully then that will put all the voice issues to bed. The new website transition has started. Tried to log in about 9 o'clock this morning and got website temporarily unavailable. Hopefully in 3 or 4 hours it'll be back up and running with the new website there. Following up on some comments made a couple of times, Columns Magazine for November might be a little bit late there. It's touch and go again. If you're writing, contributing an article to the columns, it'd be appreciated if you could get it in on time. Finally, yesterday we met with a firm that originally had said they might be able to do something to help us with our cell phone service out here. It turned out that, as they put it, this isn't in our wheelhouse. I think basically they were shocked when they drove in through the front gate, the amount of distance that they had to cover just to get to the clubhouse up here, and they immediately realized, no, this is totally beyond us. So that's all I have.
Anybody else have questions for communications?
What was that was totally beyond them?
Helping out with the cell phone service out here, some kind of booster that might augment what we have.
Okay.
I think the new website is up. I think I'm on it right now. So one of the new features of the website is it's now mobile and tablet accessible. So now you can actually download an icon. You can put an icon and a link to the website and get right onto it. And it should make it easier for members to get onto it and navigate it. There's going to be more information in the November columns about the website. So FYI.
I have a question in reference to the cell phone service. Is that for the general public cell phones? Or is it just for the club system that we're putting in?
No, sir. We were trying to go for pecan-wide, PPO, or Homeowners Association, the entire peninsula.
So AT&T has come up and said it's too hard to do, or what?
This was not AT&T we talked with yesterday. AT&T has said in a nutshell, we're not interested in building any more infrastructure at this time.
Any other questions, Mr. Waddell?
Could I ask a question of the group to possibly look and see if some other company might be interested in providing a better service, i.e. Verizon or whoever?
Well, if I can make one comment on the website, then I can address that also. We're really proud of the website, but what I would ask everyone not to do is please don't leave this room and run to the computer and start logging on. We don't need it swapped with traffic for just, give us a few hours to finish the transition work. It's up and running, but there's still work to be done. We have talked to I talked to Singular. About 4 or 5 months ago, I met a VP from Singular, asked him about it. It was Singular or Verizon? I don't even remember now, one of them. And his statement to me was, I think I can quote this fairly well, we have no incentive to cover every nook and cranny in the United States. And the answer is no, we won't build one there. The developer did talk to a third-party tower builder. It's the same one, I believe it's Crown, that owns the one out here in Hood County, north of us, and they had no interest in it either. Well, even if you lease it, unfortunately, it doesn't mean AT&T is going to come out. It doesn't mean AT&T is going to come out and put equipment on it. Thank you.
Actually, Verizon's pretty good. I got Verizon. It works a lot better than AT&T.
Jerry Cotter and Marina, please.
Good morning. First of all, we had a successful meeting on October 10th. For the first time in a while, the actual members of the committee outnumbered the members of the board that were there. We actually had a quorum that was good. The statement of work for the grill and the store projects, I want to thank Lou for all his help on that. We're moving along on that. Michael, thank you for your help in pushing that through to the contract people. We're working on prioritizing our long-range plans, and the problem with that is, of course, budgetary. We don't have any money for long-range plans in the marina right now, since we've got the dock work coming on board. Once we get that done, then we're going to prioritize them to move forward to 2018, 2019, push them out, make sure, but we're going to start prioritizing those. The big project right now is the boat slip rental agreement, both the rates and the agreement themselves. We're looking at whether they should be a full 12-month agreement, 6-month agreement with some kind of change, different structure on the fees. A number of different ways we're looking at that. We'll be moving that along and hopefully have it ready shortly after the first of the year, at least by spring of 2018. That's all I have.
Comments, questions from Marina?
Yeah, there was a well-documented complaint about ADOC's condition. I wonder if you've had a chance to address that.
I have not. I have not gone down there myself. been on a time crunch about a number of issues. But it has been sent to the people that are involved, as you did, Bob, and as also Daniel's been involved with it as well. He was not copied originally.
And I've also been involved with it as well, so we're working on that issue as we speak. Yeah. Any other questions for the Marina Committee? If not, Aaron and Keith are going to go over entertainment and sports and rec.
Good morning, everyone. The Entertainment Committee met on Wednesday, October the 4th. At that meeting, we basically planned karaoke and talked about other upcoming events in November and December. The annual karaoke was held this past Saturday, October the 21st, here in the ballroom. We want to give thanks to Eva Margul for helping decorate. The hors d'oeuvres buffet was delicious, even with the skeleton in the middle of it. With just over 150 people in attendance, a scary time was had by all. Coming up on November the 4th, the Entertainment Committee joins with the Airport Committee for the first fly-in combination car show. What a combination, unique autos and airplanes, definitely something for everyone. Volunteers with golf carts are needed to chauffeur people from the Nutcracker to Plainview Park. If you and your cart are available, please show up at 9 a.m. and see Brenda Palmer. November 8th will be our annual Veterans Day celebration. This is one of the most amazing programs that the Entertainment Committee is involved with in honoring the vets. Please remember to bring pictures of the veterans in your life for display on the table in the lobby. If you have never attended our celebration, we invite you to do so this year. Coming up November the 23rd is the annual Thanksgiving buffet. December the 12th is the member Christmas social here at the clubhouse. The 31st, of course, is the annual New Year's Eve party. That's it for now, but don't forget to check out your columns for all details of upcoming events.
Thank you, Aaron, and thank you for your help on the karaoke ballroom party. I heard it went. Keith, how about sports and rec?
Well, Sports and Rec met its regular scheduled time on October 3rd. Archery and Air Gun Range, October 28th at 9 a.m. is the annual pumpkin shoot for kids ages 8 to 13, limited to 20 kids, so be sure to sign up at the PAC. And also November 18th is the adult turkey shoot. Pickleball camp forum for the outdoor pickleball court parts 1 and 2 have been completed and turned into management. Tennis, John Ingram will once again be participating in Trunk or Treat at the PAC this Saturday, representing the tennis center. And November 3rd through November 13th is the annual PPTA, that's the Pecan Plantation Tennis Association, Canned Food Drive. Please stop by and donate to this worthy cause. The campground, Ross Carnes has generously offered to donate 2 red oaks from his yard. Daniel Van Patten has agreed to transplant these trees after the weather cools. If anyone else would like to donate, please contact either Bill Green or Brenda Palmer. And the PAC, October 28th, will be the annual Halloween party and trunk or treat from 2 to 4 p.m. There will be games, costume contest, the ever-popular haunted house, and volunteers are needed to help decorate and man the games. If you're interested, please contact the PAC. And as a side note, staff and volunteers have already spent 39 hours preparing for the Halloween party. And Election Day is November 7th at the PAC. And Keith Casterlin, that's me, explained to the committee that a change was needed to provide parity in all fee-based classes at the PAC and under the direction of Sports and Recreation. After a brief discussion, a motion was made by Jimmy De La Garza and seconded by Chaney Honey, and unanimously approved by the committee that a new fee split for said classes would become effective November 1, 2017. And well, that's about it for now, but remember to check your columns for more details. And respectfully submitted, Brenda Palmer, Chair. That's not me.
Keith, a quick question. Does this,
yes, sir.
you discussed a fee schedule for, does that include the swimming pools or just the pack?
Anything that would fall under our direction, like the stuff where we did attendance and billing, for some of these classes, we grandfathered in once the pack was built. A few of the classes, the board decided to grandfather in a few, and it's remained that way for the last 9 years that the pack was opened. And with the original budget that we presented in trying to overcome the $115,000 deficit that on our original proposal overall for PPOA, management was asked to reevaluate ways to cut expenses and raise revenues and leave no stone unturned. This was one area in sports and rec that we thought needed to be addressed, and this was the right time to do it. So it was brought up at the committee level. So anything that gets put under us, that would include water aerobics. If it falls under us, we're trying to get away from that model of donations accepted free going, because there's all this money passing hands utilizing pecan plantation community resources, and PPOA should be involved in the cut and management of said programs. So,
any other comments or questions for Keith or Aaron? Thank you, guys. Let's go to Ty and Gordon, safety and security.
Yes, our meeting was on Wednesday, the 11th of October. We spent a large amount of our time talking about Crime Watch. Mark Pump and fortunately Dave Leverton, who had been doing Crime Watch for several years here, both shared with us that seems to be a lack of interest in people volunteering to be part of the Crime Watch. There's probably about only 4 or 5 people right now who have been using the vehicle, using the signs, driving around at night. And the report was that they don't see anything. Nothing's really happening. We also had a discussion about some of the comments that have been made on our next door pecan about people indicating that they think that they see something as criminal behavior when it, in fact, is probably mischief, not crossing the line to becoming criminal. But if someone sees something that they think is criminal behavior, then the response is dial 911, because security is not prepared to be able to handle something that would put them in harm's way if it is criminal behavior. I think that a lot of people misunderstand the distinguish between what they see as really mischief. Somebody might be toilet papering a house or a tree in front of a house. That's not criminal. That's just plain mischief. If someone complains about that, then you need to try to figure out who it is that's doing something like that. Maybe you can get a hold of the neighbor's security camera and see what's going on. We also discovered happily that the security entrance system will be installed shortly, and hopefully that will be operating to the satisfaction of everyone. That will be something that will be in the columns. It will be discussed. It will be briefed to all of us, to the board especially, and to all of the members of our committee. And we'll make sure that that's going to be on the website as well, so people will understand what the process is for using a new system to have people being able to enter. The other thing is that we discussed was, and Ty is going to be addressing some of the things that he reports, but one of our concerns was a lack of a full staff for security. And we're hoping that we will see that there will be a new hire coming on, training for people to be able to become security folks, getting more wheels on the road, so that we'll have a better idea what really is transpiring as far as our speed control on the plantation is concerned. Any questions for me?
It's my understanding that you withdrew the request to the board for the traffic survey?
You're terribly misunderstood.
Well, that's what I was told, that...
Well, unfortunately, whoever told you that doesn't know what they're talking about, okay?
So you still stand behind the board looking at doing a traffic survey?
Do we stand behind the board?
Yeah,
we made the recommendation to the board.
You made the recommendation. You have not rescinded that recommendation, correct?
Pardon me?
You have not rescinded that recommendation.
That's correct.
Okay. That's, again, rumors are prevalent here. That's how you get a lot of news.
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment real briefly, Joel. You know, this is the board's opportunity to get a data dump from the committees, and the dialogue should be from us to you and you back to us. Now, if we have spectators in the audience, delighted to hear from you, but it ought to be at a different venue. You should, if you have concerns with security, talk to security. But I don't think this is the time and place to have a town hall meeting.
Going back to safety and security, Ty?
In our meeting, we had one dispute. It was a non-member speeding. The speeding citation was upheld. A couple of the things that we talked about was the upcoming deer trapping. We also had a report of an individual that reported that Rigo was back in Pecan. We were given a vehicle description, a license plate number, and we were able to locate this vehicle with the information that we had, and this individual is not Rigo. It's a completely different person. So Rigo has not been back in here. It's another person. His name is Manuel, and we're very fortunate that I have somebody in my office that speaks Spanish and was able to communicate with Manuel that it is against the rules to solicit, and if he continues to do that, he will also be banned from Pecan. So, but please, if you have somebody that is soliciting, don't hesitate to call us, and we'll get that issue resolved. We also talked about Crime Watch. In the Crime Watch, the old way that we used to do it is a system that doesn't seem to be working great right now. But what we're going to try to do is encourage neighbors to watch out for neighbors. That usually works way better than one person driving around. If everybody will just kind of group together with your neighbors, keep an eye on each other, it'll be way more effective than anything that any individual can do. We kind of had a business...
Guys, just a minute. Does that mean you're going to eliminate the Crime Watch?
No. Crime Watch is completely separate from security, but what security is encouraging is members to just keep an eye on each other. Let each other know when you're going out of town, something that's going on. If everybody will watch each other, we have 7,000 security officers instead of just one.
Ty, do we still have the service that if people put down to have their house checked while they're gone,
correct,
security will go there?
Yeah, we have a house watch list where if somebody's going to be out of town for several days, they can give us a call. We'll ask for some information, know what to look for. Is there a car in the driveway or things like that? And we make patrols by that house and take a close look at it and make sure there's nothing unusual going on. We had 4,988 calls in the office during the month of September. Of those, we had 12 loose and lost pets, 6 barking dogs, and 9 animal reports. 1 major vehicle crash, 3 mailboxes reported, 3 items reported stolen, 5 driving complaints, 5 suspicious activities, 2 parking, and 2 welfare checks. And a welfare check means we're going to somebody's house to check on their welfare. We're not concerned about a check from the welfare department. Some people are confused about what that means. We issued 30 citations in September. 20 were their first speeding, 5 was their second speeding. Barking dogs, loose dogs, and parking were the other tickets. 21 were on Plantation, 5 Ravenswood, and 4 on the other streets. 17 to members, 9 to guests, 2 to vendors, and 2 to contractors. And Sheriff's Department had 61 calls from our community. 14 of them were just information phone calls. So if you take that out, is a variety of other calls, everything from accidents to welfare checks. Any questions?
Thank you, Ty and Gordon. Let's move on to Jim and the Wildlife Committee.
Thank you, sir. This is a brief recap of our meeting held on October the 8th. Start with deer. We had our trapping cycle began on Wednesday, October the 10th. Total trapped deer was 41, 23 does, 18 bucks. 5 of the bucks were rather large, and they were released. So, so far, no residents have offered. Oh, wait a minute. 3 trapping sites have been removed at residents' request. They don't want them in their yard. They don't want them close by. And we're trying to find some places to reestablish those. And so far, no residents have come forward to make an offer to let us do that in their yard or near their place. So we're not sure exactly how that's going to work from here on. Car strikes, the average number of car strikes has been around 150 per year. This year, that's from May to May. I'm sorry? I'm sorry, sir, I didn't hear you.
Hold the mic a little closer like this.
Oh, okay. I'm afraid you'll hear me if I do that. Car strikes. We have an average number of car strikes over the past few years of 150 per year. This is measured from May to May, and so far to date this year we've got 23, so we're way down. And I think that has to do with keeping the population under control. And an average cost for repairing the automobiles on a car strike is $2,000. We found out, so it's getting pretty expensive. Hogs, most recent damaged areas for hogs are the 8,700 at 8,900 blocks of Ravenswood, Plantation Beach, the campgrounds, and the backside of Monticello. Per the Hood County Game Warden Preston Weisenherd, who attended the meeting, this will only get worse as the hog population continues to grow in and around the Pecan area. And he says that the only surefire way to control hog population is with firearms. Trapping and things like that just don't get it done, according to him. Trout fishing initiative, this is where we're going to stock trout in the Brazos River. We're going to do 3 or 4 different locations and 3 or 4 different releases. And this is all going to be paid for with private funds. It's not going to be any of Pecan's money. It's donated in fundraisers and that sort of thing. And let's see, where did I lose my place here? Oh, yeah, we've got a couple of companies, a couple of clubs going to join with us. Brazos River Sportsman's Club is going to be one of them, and the Pecan Trout Fishers Club is another one. And Pecan Fishers has already donated the money they made from the garage sale to this cause. So it's a good thing. We had a guest at the meeting. We had 14 non-members show up for the meeting, and they voiced their concern about Pecan's wildlife They voiced their concern about Pecan's wildlife project, ranging from telling potential buyers about the trapping process prior to purchasing a home, which kind of scares me that they would do that, and to alternate population control methods such as chemical sterilization and that sort of thing, as well as the legality of hunting along the riverbed. All of these will be addressed at future meetings and responded back to in kind. Wildlife Committee will begin making presentations at future new member orientation meetings. But it will include such topics as the deer herd's overall health, population control to maintain the healthy herd, and the issues we have with hogs. All of these will be addressed at the new membership meeting. And that is it.
The game warden did let us know about hunting in Pecan Plantation, and his interpretation of the law is you have to be in the river to hunt either duck or deer. And so that's been a common complaint in the fall among residents, and so we'll be addressing that with the game warden this fall. Okay. Any other questions for the wildlife? Go ahead, Dennis.
I just had a question because I'd heard that there was going to be a recommendation made to the board to allow shooting of hogs in the orchard. Is that correct?
Run that by me one time. I'm having a hard time hearing.
Shooting of hogs in the orchard is a recommendation. I think after talking to the game warden, for safety reasons, I just don't think that we would allow that. It's just too dangerous.
Yeah.
Anything else for wildlife? Okay, Eric, and infrastructure.
Okay, the infrastructure held their regular meeting on October 3rd. We had a quorum. After approving the September minutes, we got updates from Daniel on the two big projects going on. The front entrance was all but done. They were waiting to finish the striping, get the hydromulching on the drainage area. That's all been done since then, including additional dress up and just general cleanup. The addition there is that the way the road, the extension of the member lane and the new drainage ditch, the way those two came together, necessitated that a guardrail be added. And so, given that I guess there's two factors there that, for the reason that that wasn't in the original plan, the road width, we paved an additional foot along the edge of the road there, because in some of the current turns of that road, people were driving off into the to the edge of the road and causing damage. So we did add a foot to help that. And the other issue being that the drain actually ended up a foot closer just through variances in the construction of the drain. It ended up being a foot closer to the road. So those two factors, we lost 2 feet of essentially distance between the drainage and the road, and so it caused the slope to be a little bit bigger than it should. And I think the engineering house recommended that, given what the slope ended up being and also the rules according to the TxDOT, that a guardrail be put up. The unfortunate thing about that is that the only kind of guardrail that we can put up are the same guardrails that are installed on interstate highways. So it's going to be a big, ugly silver guardrail with the impact things on the front. The guardrails that used to slope down into the ground aren't done anymore, as well as the old style kind of guardrails that you would see in a park or anything. Nobody's going to install that. So it's going to be I hope not too ugly, but I'm not really holding out. The other project, Westover Bypass, all of the pipe had been completely installed. They're still working on finishing up the repavement, and we'll get our meeting next week. I'll have more update for that. But at the time of our meeting in October, we were expected to be finished just about now. The other issues, or the other next thing we talked about was the area inspections. I've gotten all the reports back from the committee members now on the area inspections, and I'm summarizing those and taking a look to see if anything has turned up, red flag wise. The last thing we talked about, were the new drainage proposals. At the time of our last meeting, they hadn't been approved by the board, but they have been. And we haven't heard anything back yet from them. So sure, we'll talk about that at our next meeting.
Any other comments, questions for infrastructure?
Yeah, Eric, do you have a timeline? Are we going to see an additional cost through finance to the board for approval for that guardrail, and then what's the timeline of that happening?
I don't think so. It's the estimated cost was about $10,000. Adding that to the cost of the whole project is still within the contingency. So I don't think we're going to be submitting any new requests for additional money. A couple weeks, yeah. So.
Any other questions? Roger Merrill on grounds.
Thank you. Our regular meeting on October the 3rd, during our discussions of our common area inspections, one thing that did come up regarding Crime Watch was a lot of illegal dumping in dumpsters that are not allowed for just residents to dump in. And so I know this is an ongoing problem, but we were wondering if there could be some cameras installed to see if we can locate those who are using those dumpsters illegally because it does create quite a mess around those dumpsters from time to time. So the only other thing I have to report from our meeting was we were asked to submit the capital asset documents for a couple of projects, one being some structural modifications to the gazebo down here behind the clubhouse, which has been an ongoing question about how much we want to upgrade that structure. So we've submitted the part one of the camp process, and we're going to have to get some more information before we submit part two. We did submit part one and two for the plantation trail, or as we call it, safety lane, for bikes and hikes and carts. And so that's in the process, and it's a pretty big project. But anyway, we've got the process going for it, and that's all I have today.
Roger, do you have a regular checklist of each of the facilities that you check with things to be, and does your committee go to those facilities and actually check them out?
I'm sorry, repeat that.
Okay.
I can hear it.
Does your committee have a checklist of each of the facilities, and are you or members of your committee actually going out and checking those facilities for things like rust, stains, inoperable pieces of equipment? My question is, do you have a checklist, and is anybody actually checking those things?
Well, our inspection areas are common areas, and that would include parks and any of the facilities in the parks, and if there is a deterioration or anything like that, we would report it. It includes the security buildings at each gate, but other than any equipment, no, we're not involved with the equipment that I know of.
Any other comments before we go back to Ray Lewis and Airport? Yes, sir, Dennis.
Just FYI, Roger, on a big reason why we're trying to update the new members video is because it specifically says that you can use the dumpster up here at the club if you're in an emergency situation. So we know that's why it's got to be updated.
Any other comments, questions? Ray Lewis and the Airport Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Airport Committee met at its normally scheduled time of October 11th with a quorum. Minutes were approved. I want to second the suggestion that everybody keep in mind the fly-in on 4 November. We're looking forward to a great turnout. I think that'll be it's always a great outreach for the airport to reach out to the community. Kids have an opportunity to fly in airplanes that they might not ever have a chance, and I think there might be a chance for an adult to fly in an airplane older than the adult, much older than the adult. So it ought to be an interesting day. We continue to evaluate, explore, perfect the Plainview Park renovation in response to the board's admonition to make it look like bring it up to the standards of the rest of the areas in Pecan. We reviewed some of the revisions, and at our next meeting we will be reviewing all of the bid specifications in preparation for immediately going out for bids for those, and hopefully we'll be coming back with a revised ACE within a month or so after that. From a maintenance standpoint, Daniel pointed out that the drainage efforts that are being studied, one of the areas that is currently being using the LIDAR study and additional ground survey work that has been approved could involve the west ditch along the airport. that whole area of drainage is being explored, and that ditch is a portion of that which could have an effect. Obviously, it won't be at this time. It'll be down the road a ways, but that could have an impact on the airport. No additional information on the GPS yet. Continuing to push that with the contractor. I see Mr. Lyman left, but I hope, now that's the report, now my editorial, I hope the board doesn't take his statements to imply that we need to put good money after bad. We have a bathroom at the Pecan that in the airport there, which is, wood rot. It's way beyond its useful life, and yes, it will be replaced with a new structure. And the fact that it's better to build a cinder block, low maintenance bathrooms and area there rather than try to patch up the very dilapidated wooden one should not affect whether this is new capital versus replacement of an existing amenity. This is an amenity we have now, and we will be coming back with an ACE to repair that and replace it with a new improved one that is a much wiser way to spend our money than trying to patch up something that is beyond its useful life. The decision as to whether it will be exactly in the location or whether it will be 60 or 70 feet away has not yet been evaluated by the committee or decided by the committee. We're in the process of evaluating that. We recognize that the issue of safety was brought up within 200 foot of a runway. Although it's not binding on a private airport, it is something that the FAA recognizes would be a wise thing to do for public airports, and therefore we are considering moving this some 60 or 70 feet away so that it would be beyond the threshold of the runway as well as just outside the 200-foot safety area that the FAA recommends for public airports. And that, I think, would be a wise thing to do, but the committee has not voted on that. That concludes my remarks.
Any other comments?
I just wonder if maybe the board can address this issue of improving the language about whether an asset or an amenity should come out of current capital asset funds or from new capital assets. So I don't know how the board feels. Maybe we'll discuss that at our next meeting, see if we can come up with better guidance and language for that. Doug?
Yeah, that's part of the DCR that I pulled from the Bylaws Committee, and Finance is working on that. I haven't seen the latest iteration from Finance, but it's still got a ways to go, and the board needs to look at it and make inputs, and it's something that definitely we're doing, and Finance is doing.
But, Mr. President, there are two issues that were brought up in his question. One is which fund does it come from, and one is whether it's new capital requiring votes, et cetera. And so that definitional distinction is important, but I hope that we don't do something that would force us to put good money after bad when a wise decision would be to do it right.
Any other comments or questions for our committee chairs? If not, Mr. President, I believe that concludes our reports for this month.
Any other comments? Nothing else? If not, this meeting's adjourned.